Hello. Okay, so we are doing something a little bit different today. Um, I have a bunch of movies that I saw in June, and I just kind of want to talk to you guys about them. This has been something I've been wanting to do for a while, something of like a monthly check-in where I can talk about other stuff than just new releases, right? It's just been pretty consistently new release reviews, right? And also, like, I can't get to every single new release that I see. Like, I can't, see everything in theaters. So sometimes I see them much later on and have to do like a roundup review. So I just wanted to have a space where I could talk to you guys about stuff I've been watching throughout the month. And it's kind of in the easiest format to do that in a tier list. So we have a tier list here. I have all of my ratings here, 5 out of 5 through 0.5 out of 5. I use the letterbox rating system. And yeah, these are just 26 movies that I watched in June. Some of them I have already talked about, so I won't go too heavily into detail about those guys just because I have done reviews on them. But even then, there are some that I've kind of changed my opinion on a little bit, or that's definitely something I also want to keep track of and let you guys know more, because I feel like I say things like, oh, well, you guys know my thoughts on this movie already, but I've only ever mentioned them once in a review. So this is like another way of checking in on those reviews, making sure that like you are all updated on my opinions on these movies, on how they stand to date. But that also goes hand in hand with my letterbox. If you are not following my letterbox, please go ahead and do so. It is Jake182. I know it's a very embarrassing name, but I made that name back in, I think, I want to say 8th grade, and I don't know how to change it, nor do I know if it can be changed. So, yeah, that is my letterbox. Go follow me on there. And without further ado, I think we are ready to get started with the first movie here. And these are in no particular order. These are not the order I watched them in. This is just kind of the order that they uploaded in. So no rhyme or reason into how these are structured. Okay, so yeah, without further ado, let's talk about these movies that I watched in June. And the first one is going to be pretty easy to talk about here. Okay, if I can just... It's not going there, don't worry. A New Hope. So Cam and I are actually rewatching all of the Star Wars movies. We took a little break after the original trilogy, but we did watch the entire original trilogy in the month of June, and I put A New Hope at a 4 out of 5. I like A New Hope. I think this is a very fun movie. I think that it's very easy to come back to. I love how weird it is. I love how late 70s, early 80s sci-fi it is. Like, there's a lot of incredible practical effects used. I think that the set design is gorgeous, just the way they were able to pull off certain things. I did watch it on Disney Plus, so unfortunately the newer like CGI editions were a part of it, but it didn't take me out of it for the most part. I do think this one is a little quaint comparatively to the rest of the franchise, and that's why it doesn't sit at like a masterpiece for me. I definitely think there are other Star Wars movies, and some that are coming up right now, that I prefer to A New Hope. So that's why I kind of I slide it in there, but it's still obviously a great movie, and I had a lot of fun revisiting it. Okay, so our next one is Backrooms, and I feel the exact same as I did in my review, so I'm not really going to go too heavily into that one. But yeah, Backrooms is great. I think that it really did not need any sort of structured narrative, and I think that that inclusion, especially that scene at the end where they're all sitting at the table with the therapist and he's kind of explaining, or really overly explaining the point of the movie to the audience, wasn't necessary whatsoever. So that definitely bogs it down for me, but it's one that I really want to rewatch, sink my teeth into a little bit more, and it's obviously setting a very exciting precedent for future horror films. Next up, I rewatched The Batman for like the 5th time, and that is going in 5 out of 5. On this rewatch, I will say, and this might just be because I've seen this movie, like I just said, I think 5 or 6 times at this point. I didn't get as much out of it as I did with previous rewatches. Like I wasn't as excited, I wasn't as moved, I guess. And that's it has me like teetering on putting it on a 4.5. So it's like maybe my love for this movie isn't as strong as I age. Maybe there are certain aspects of it that I don't utterly adore, but one, I do hold firm in my opinion that it is the best comic book movie ever made, and I do hold firm in my opinion that it is the only Batman film to truly understand the essence and overall tone of what Batman should be in my mind, and this is like the I don't know. It is the Batman movie, and Batman's one of my favorite fictional characters. I am a guy, so I guess that's like a prerequisite. But yeah, I do really love this movie. I think that it understands the tone of Batman very well. I think that Matt Reeves created a very slick neo-noir thriller that, again, just understands the character in a way that no other Batman film has before. Maybe on the next rewatch, it could come down to this category here, but I still want to leave it a 5 out of 5 just because of how much of a personal attachment I have to this movie. So yeah, I'm going to put that there. Then we have Black Girl, which I watched for the first time this month, and that is also going in the 5 out of 5. It's definitely better than the Batman. This really struck a nerve with me. I think that this is a very powerful movie. It's very short. It's only about I think it's a little under an hour, if not a little over. Like it's either like 50 minutes or 63 minutes. I don't know. That number is sticking in my head, so I think I'm going to go with that. But it's a very short movie. I think that it was a very disquieting experience. I think that it really showed the amount of marginalization that African people were feeling at the time from these European colonizers, right? This movie, you have a Senegalese woman moving to France with her employers and just feeling not like a person anymore, like completely dissociating because of how they treat her and the position, her social position in this new world. Like she thought she was traveling to France to see a better life, to experience new things, to live in a more vibrant city than the impoverished area that she grew up in, and all she's met with is a life of dull servitude to this family. And I think it was a really powerful experience, especially that ending really, really got to me and has stuck with me ever since I've seen this movie. So this is one of the most powerful and richest cinematic experiences I had all of last month, and I recommend anyone please go watch this film. Okay, so next up we have Cape Fear. This is the movie, I just watched this the other day, and I'm going to throw that in a 3.5 out of 5. I think Backrooms might be a little bit better. This is a movie I remember really loving as a child. Weirdly enough, this is not a movie I should have been watching at like 11, 10 years old, but I did. And I remember really liking it back then. And my friend Phil had never seen it, and he was like, I really want to see it. We're doing like a Martin Scorsese thing because I want to do a video on him in the near future. But I felt on this rewatch, this movie is definitely a lot sillier than I remember it being. It's a lot hokier. I think it leans into campiness a bit too much. Like I think because when this movie does get tonally serious, right, when it chooses to rev up the tension, it really gets under your skin. Robert De Niro delivers an absolutely terrifying performance. Like you will never look at him the same after seeing him in this film, right? And Nick Nolte, I actually really liked the amount of desperation that he was able to portray. I liked how his character felt powerless, and even though it's like, dude, if you make a couple of other decisions, this guy would be out of your life forever, but he chooses to always take like this moral grandstanding position, so it makes for a really interesting cat and mouse chase where it's two not really great people duking it out, and how Robert De Niro always seems to be one step ahead of Nick Nolte. So yeah, really, really fun movie. I think it gets really dark in places. It does have a little bit of a tonal issue. It's definitely thematically one of the least interesting things that I've seen from Scorsese, which is not a bad thing. I think this is a very entertaining thriller, but it's not much more than that, and I used to think it was. But also, it's a great score, by the way. I absolutely adore the main motif that they use in this movie. It gets stuck in my head every time I watch it. But yeah, a good movie. I've seen it a couple times at this point. Definitely not in the upper echelon of Marty Scorsese films, but still a very good time. Next up, we have The Death of Robin Hood. This is one of those new releases that I did not get to review, and I'm going to throw it in 3.5. I actually liked this movie a lot more than I thought I was going to. Off rip, I honestly didn't know how to feel about this movie. Like, it seemed very odd, like a serious reimagining of Robin Hood. We've had more than our fair share of Robin Hood adaptations throughout the years, and I think, I don't know, like a dark, gritty take on Robin Hood, is that what we really needed? But thankfully, that's not really what this movie is. This is actually a pretty quiet movie. It's a very reflective movie. It's a movie about looking back on your past sins, on your past self, and reckoning with that at an old age, especially when you're viewed as something of a hero, even though you very much know that you're not. You know that you have committed some very terrible things in your life, and I think that this movie does a really good job of portraying that kind of reckoning. Hugh Jackman actually has a really good performance here. He's very dialed in. He's very quiet. I think that his more reserved nature in this movie really, really worked for his character. I liked the dynamics he had with the other actors. I do think it's a bit long. I think that it kind of falls apart towards the end. I think that in an attempt to wrap everything up with a nice bow, it kind of rushes things along. But I do think it's a very almost beautiful movie in ways. Like, I love the way that how slowly it moves in some places, really, again, leaning into that reflective nature. I forget the director of this movie. I should probably have that name up right now, but whatever. He also directed Pig, with the movie starring Nick Cage back from 2021, and I think that he really elevated on a lot of themes that he portrayed in that movie as well. So definitely a really interesting movie, something I wasn't expecting out of it, but yeah, I would say it's worth a watch. Definitely one of the better new releases I saw last month. Definitely a thumbs up, if not, not the greatest movie there is out there, but I had a pretty good time with it, and it's something that has stuck with me since I've seen it. Next up, we have Disclosure Day. Oh man, this movie, I've cooled on it a little bit. I knew I was going to, just because I put that here. I still put it a 4 out of 5. Like, I still really like this movie. I definitely think it's up there for one of my favorites of the year so far, but I've definitely cooled on it. It's not like the movie of the year. I definitely can see where some people are coming from, where the script is a bit of a mess in places. I think that they don't overly land on a lot of the ideas they present here. I think David Koepp is a very average at best screenwriter. I think he's written a lot of stinkers, and this script isn't one of his best. However, I really love what Spielberg was doing here. I love what he was doing with the camera a lot of the time. I love how this felt like a classic sci-fi movie that he would direct in the 80s. I love the tone that it took. I think the last half of the movie is exceptional. Emily Blunt and Josh O'Connor are so good. There's so much to love about this movie that I really do not care about the more nitpicky stuff. Yes, this script is not fantastic. I will fully admit to that now, and I think that's what it bumps it down from a 4.5 to a 4 for me. But I still think it's one of the better movies I've seen this year. I still think it's a very forward-thinking statement from Spielberg, and I feel like it's a very necessary movie. So, again, cooled on Disclosure Day a little bit, but definitely am an advocate for it, and probably one of its bigger fans on the internet, because, man, people do not like this movie. All right, next up we have Dreams by Akira Kurosawa, and that is going into the 5 out of 5. This is my favorite movie that I watched all month long. Yes. No other movie, even though, like Black Girl and obviously Batman. I think Batman's definitely in a other level than Black Girl and Dreams, but I watched some absolute bangers in June, and you'll see some other ones coming up. But Dreams is what has stuck with me through this entire month. It is one of the most serene cinematic experiences I've had in I don't know how long. This movie, I sat there glued to the screen, and the imagery that he was able to conjure and how accurately he was able to depict how dreams feel, at least to me, onto the camera. I don't know where I was going with that, but the way he was able to portray a dreamlike atmosphere and the tone that was captured here was so brilliant, and I was locked in for this entire film. And it's 2 hours, and it's 8 short films. Like I could very easily see myself getting a little bored with this kind of movie, but he executes on the concept in a way that I didn't even know was humanly possible. And this is a movie that, again, I have not stopped thinking about since I've watched it. It's disturbing. It's beautiful. I think that it betrays a sense of childlike wonder, but also a very adult-like pessimism in places. I think that the inclusion of Marty Scorsese as Vincent Van Gogh was just what that sequence needed. Like, this movie, oh man, it is incredible to see an absolute auteur in Akira Kurosawa at the very end of his career take a risk like this and have it absolutely pay off. So yeah, this is my favorite movie I watched all of last month, and it's honestly one of my favorite movies of all time now. Maybe, obviously, I just saw it last month, so that's a little bit of a bold take for me, but yeah, I loved the shit out of Akira Kurosawa's Dreams, and I think it is my favorite movie of June. Yeah. Okay, then we have Empire Strikes Back. This is my favorite Star Wars movie. I think it's most people's favorite Star Wars movies. It is that for a reason. I think it takes what was built up in A New Hope and really runs with it. I think the slightly darker tone works really well. I like the themes that they touch on. It's a sci-fi masterpiece. Don't really need to get too much more into it. It's Empire Strikes Back. You all know Empire Strikes Back. Then we have Eve's Bayou, which was something I watched earlier in the month and really, really liked. I'm going to put that there. This is an underappreciated thriller from the late 90s. It follows a girl, Eve, who, as she grows older, starts to discover family secrets and discovering that the people who, she puts on a pedestal aren't really who they say they are. There's a lot of deception. There's a lot of family trauma history stuff, and I really enjoyed it. I think it was a thoroughly riveting experience from start to finish. I think that its setting is really strong. I love how it utilizes the literal bayou as almost a character in and of itself. Sorry, one second. I adored Journey. I think that's how you say her name. I'm very sorry if I mispronounced it. But Journey Smollett gives one of the best child performances I've seen ever in this film. I really loved Megan Good. I think she was great in this film. Samuel L. Jackson obviously turns in a really great performance. And I just think that it really wraps you up in a web of a story, and it intersects those different narratives very satisfyingly. And again, I think visually utilizing its setting as almost of a character in and of itself was a really, really great choice. I think it had a lot of atmosphere. There are times where you can feel a bit lost, and it is a little dated, I will say. I think that you can definitely tell this was made in the late 90s. It kind of has that stank on it. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. I just think it ties it to a very specific time, and that can kind of limit the messages it's trying to get across at times. Only at times. Again, I really, really liked Eve's Bayou. I think it is one of the more underappreciated thrillers that came out in the 90s. Next up, we have John Woo's Face Off. This is the first of a couple of John Woo movies that I watched in the month of June, and I'm going to put it at a 3. This is a ridiculous movie. There were several times where I was laughing out loud, probably unintentionally. Yeah, John Travolta's performance in this film needs to be seen to be believed, especially when he is acting as Nick Cage's character. It is otherworldly. Otherworldly. He is such a bad actor, my God. But it's fun. I think Nick Cage is absolutely chewing up the scenery in the best way possible. It has some incredible action sequences. There are some pretty disturbing scenes in this movie where I was like, wow, I didn't know they were willing to go that far in like this mainstream of a action movie. It's a ton of fun. I definitely could see myself rewatching it one day, but if I even start to think about it for a second, everything starts to kind of slip through the cracks there. So definitely had fun with it. Would recommend, but I can't necessarily call it a great movie. Ooh, excuse me. I can't necessarily call it a great movie or anything like that, but yeah, I had fun with Face Off. Next up, we have The Furious, which is another 2026 release, and that's going to go right here. This was an action movie I had been hearing a ton of hype around. It came out, and not a lot of people were talking about it, but once word of mouth got around, a lot of people were saying, like, wow, this is something else. Like, you have to go see this in the theater. So I eventually got myself to the movie theater to see this, and I really, really liked it. I think that it is one of the most high-octane and high-energy action films I've seen in quite some time. It does not stop moving once it gets going, and it doesn't take very long to kick itself into overdrive. I think that it has some of the best choreography I've seen in quite some time. The way the camera moves is so fluid and follows the action so well. And yeah, it is just a thrill ride from start to finish. I do think it's hindered by a very, very, very generic plot. I think that this movie leans into action stereotypes so heavily that it kind of... I don't necessarily care about the majority of the characters here, and I know that's not the point. I know, like, I very much... There's this whole debate going on TikTok that I keep seeing of, like, are you a person that looks for a movie as a narrative or as a piece of visual art? And for me, personally, it is right down the middle. I treat every movie on a different aspect. Like, if it is just trying to be a mostly visual film, then I'm going to judge it and treat it as that. If it's trying to do both, and you get what I'm trying to say here. Like, I think it is very much a case-by-case basis, and with this kind of movie, like, normally, yes, I wouldn't necessarily care about the movie like The Furious having a pretty slipshod narrative, right? I kind of don't care because I've rated it so high. Like 3.5, that's still a very good score. I really, really like this movie. But when you have this high octane of an action movie, when you have such stylized sequences, I need to be invested in the conflict even a little bit, right? Like, I need to have that little extra hook to get me to really care, to have those moments be as satisfying as they could possibly be, and Furious just doesn't really do that. Like, I think this narrative is pretty below average and takes a lot of safe choices, and it kind of goes the John Wick route of, like, all right, it doesn't matter, we'll just put these characters together in any way we see fit, and I didn't love that aspect of the film. That being said, I do think it's a really fun time. I think that I was glued to the screen throughout most of it. It really takes the action over the line in some places where I'm like, oh, that's super gory, or oh, that's nasty. Like, I didn't know they were going that far, and that was awesome to see, but it kind of just is that, right? Like, it never shot above that, nor was it really trying to, right? But I do think, like, this movie's awesome, and it's just awesome. That's it. Like, it's okay to leave it at that. So, yeah. That is my thoughts on The Furious. Let's go to the next movie, Hard Boiled, which is a John Woo Hong Kong action movie classic that is going in the 4.5. I loved this movie. I've been going through a very heavy John Woo Hong Kong action movie Kick as of late, as you'll see, I think with one other entry on here. I watched A Better Tomorrow and City on Fire, I think last month or 2 months ago, May, and then just haven't been able to scratch that itch yet. I want more and more and more, and this is one of the best ones I have seen. It does not stop from the get-go. This movie is constantly throwing new things at you. It is constantly one-upping itself in terms of action sequences. And this is actually a very good parallel. I'm glad that I'm talking about it right after The Furious, because this movie was able to get me to invest in its characters. It was able to get me to invest in the conflicts it was portraying, so that when one of the coolest action sequences I've ever seen happens, it hits with way more of an impact than something like The Furious, because I am invested. And, Chow Yun-fat in this movie is just... his charisma is unmatched. Like, I have never seen someone so meant for the kind of movies that he's in, and I love every second of any movie he is ever in. I'll watch anything with Chow Yun-fat in it. I might be his biggest fan in the world. I think legitimately he's now become one of my favorite actors of all time. But yeah, Hard Boiled, it is a classic for a reason. If you're even remotely interested in this genre specifically, or John Woo's other non-English language movies, start here. I think that if you don't get hooked from this film, you won't. But if you do, man, it is such a fun time. And yeah, one of the best action movies I think I've ever seen. So definitely highly recommend Hard Boiled. Then we have Heat. This is my first time ever seeing Heat, weirdly enough. I know it's like a classic, putting in a 4.5 there. I attempted to watch it once, but back in my old house, I think this is my old house, it might have been the house I'm currently in, but I used to not be able to both have my air conditioner plugged in and my TV/PlayStation plugged in, so I couldn't watch a Blu-ray and have air conditioning on at the same time. I don't know why that was, but I watched this movie, and because it's almost 3 hours long, it was in the middle of the summer, I almost died of a heat stroke. So that's why I had to turn it off. But I finally watched all of it, and am here to say it is as good as people say it is. This is a sprawling crime epic that is probably as good as it gets for the crime genre. Michael Mann really understands this genre, and I think that he built upon the themes that he touched on in Thief, which I do think is a better movie. I definitely prefer Thief, because I think that movie is weirdly perfect, whereas this movie definitely has its flaws, but I think its heights are really, really high, and probably some of the highest that they will be in Michael Mann's career. This is a really ambitious movie. I love the dynamic between Al Pacino and Robert De Niro's character. I think it's one of the best, criminal and his cop counterpoint relationships we've ever seen on film before. And yeah, I think it is just as good, if not better, than people make it out to be. So highly recommend Heat. Then we have Hoppers. This is another new release that I saw or caught up on in the month of June. If it hit Disney Plus, I believe that's how I watched it. I was very whatever about this movie. I had heard a lot of people say, oh, this is a return to form for Pixar. They're doing something new finally. They're giving us a new idea. And I went into it pretty excited, and I guess maybe my expectations were a little bit too high, but I got little to nothing out of this movie. Yes, it was cute. It was charming. The environmental message is nice, but it's kind of shit I've already seen them attempt before, and it doesn't move the needle for me in one direction or another. I found the animation to be particularly bad, noticeably of poor quality for Pixar. And I got really nothing else to say about it other than that. I think it's fine. I definitely think it's very watchable. I didn't really hate anything I was seeing, but I wasn't moved by any of it at all. I think it was just your typical Disney post 2010s movie. It's fine. It's very there. And I was a little let down, because I, for one, love Pixar. I think that it used to be one of the more forward-thinking animation studios out there, and to see them kind of put out this mediocre product pretty consistently now, like ever since, I want to say 2023, but it could have been even earlier than that. Like, I know Soul was 2020, and that was probably the last great movie that I saw from Pixar, and it's been all pretty downhill from there. But yeah, I did not love Hoppers. It's definitely not like emblematic of that or anything. Like, I'm not trying to cast all of Pixar's problems onto this movie because I don't think that's fair whatsoever. But it is just like another mediocre product that I'm going to forget about in a month. So, yeah, unfortunately, I was pretty let down by Hoppers. And then we have another new release that I was let down by, and woof, did I not like this movie. How to Make a Killing came out earlier this year. It was a A24 film starring Glenn Powell about a man who is born into a wealthy family, but is completely chastised from that family because he was born under like weird circumstances, and he never knows that family, but then he realizes that he can come into all of their wealth if they all die, so he attempts to make plans on killing all of them. This movie pissed me off. I went into it not really expecting too much, just because the reviews for it and people that I trust saw were like, yeah, it's fine. So I expected it to be a pretty middling experience, but like I made a promise to myself that I would watch more new releases this year, and I'm already failing at that promise, so I need to do better. And this movie, I was like, okay, it's on HBO Max, like I don't, no skin off my back, let's just watch it. And I came away from it legitimately detesting this film. It is such a nothing burger that, like, it doesn't have anything in particular. It doesn't have anything interesting to say in particular, nor is it entertaining in the slightest. I found myself almost frothing at the mouth for something entertaining to happen, for something to move the needle in either direction. I would have accepted something like even egregiously terrible if it was something noteworthy, but no. This movie plays it safe. It follows the exact same tropes as every other, like, eat the rich, but also not really commenting on why the rich are in the position that they are movie that we've seen over these like 5 or 6 years now. Like, we've seen this done before so much better over and over and over and over again. And I don't understand why they keep going back to this well, especially A24. Like, I know A24 is just like a conglomerate. It's just another company. So it's not like, they have specific creative direction necessarily. But it just seems like we're getting this kind of movie over and over and over again and repackaged, but it's shittier the more it comes out, and this might be the worst example of it all. Like, I really, really despised watching How to Make a Killing, and I would not be surprised at all if it remains pretty high up on my worst of 2026 list. I could not stand this movie. All right, moving on, we have Ichi the Killer, and I'm going to put here. This is an interesting one for me because this is kind of like an infamous movie. It's always talked about when people bring up, like, what are the most disturbing movies of all time. It's a very infamous, like, horror, action horror adjacent, I don't know what genre you would classify it this under. It's Takashi Miike. It's probably his most well-known movie other than Audition. And I am very conflicted because on one hand, there are elements of this movie that utterly fascinate me. Like, other than what it kind of divulges to, I thought Ichi as a character was so interesting. I think, like, the way they were able to portray how traumatized he is, but also how genuinely warped and fucked up his worldview is, and how you can never tell if that's just how he is or if he's a product of his environment. I found his performance to be really great. I think that this movie also captures the tone of a manga in a way that no other live-action film was ever able to recreate. Like, to this day, I have never seen something so accurately depict the tone of a manga, and I was really shocked on how they were even able to do that. However, I do think that more often than not, this movie kind of just divulges into edgelord bullshit. Like, I think that it brings up a lot of things about, like, sexual violence and violence in general, and masculinity and stuff like that, but I don't think it necessarily has anything interesting to say. I think it uses a lot of that for shock value, and I think that the shock value of this movie has no substance behind it. So I was pretty let down, if I'm being honest. Like, I wanted to connect with this movie. I wanted it to be like, because I've really liked the other stuff I've seen from Takashi Miike. Like, I think that he can to do this provocative thing well, but here I think that, well, again, it's fascinating, and I think that this is definitely a movie people, if you can stomach this kind of thing, like, obviously, if you don't want to be seeing sexual violence, if you don't want to be seeing excessive gore or anything like that, which is totally understandable, obviously. Stay clear of this movie, but like, it's definitely something I would want people to see and really pay attention to it and study it. Do I think it's a good movie, though? The jury's kind of still out, and I'm leaning more towards not really. I do think its place in history is very interesting. I think, again, studying this film is very... It can bring about a lot of really interesting conversation, but I don't think in execution it is anything other than messy and deeply flawed. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on Ichi the Killer. Then we have The Killer, another Hong Kong action movie by way of John Woo, and I think I'm going to put that there. This was a good time. I like this movie a lot. I think that it does the cat and mouse dynamic of something like we talked about with Heat very, very well. I think it adds a lot of interesting wrinkles to that dynamic. I think that this movie plays into the melodrama of this genre in particular very well. I don't know necessarily if it sticks the landing, nor is it nearly as thematically interesting as something like Hard Boiled or A Better Tomorrow. But it's definitely a solid entry in John Woo's filmography. I almost said discography. Again, this is like another one where if you're looking to get into the genre, I would recommend starting with something like this. It has a really awesome climax that is just utter chaos, and really, I think, put John Woo on the map as a visual director. But again, the actual ending, like the final few minutes, I don't know if I love, and I think that, I don't know, he's done better, and I think that he expanded on some of the ideas touched on in this film better in other places in his filmography. Still a great time, still highly recommended, still definitely in the upper echelon of the stuff I watched this month, but not his best, I will say. Moving on, we have The King of Comedy, and this is another 5 out of 5. This is hard. I think I'm going to put that right in the middle of the 5 out of 5. This might be my favorite Martin Scorsese movie, and that's not something I say lightly. I love After Hours. That's one of my favorite movies of all time, but this movie, I think, it takes the best elements from his best movies, or his most iconic movies, and boils them down into a formula that works so well for me. This is such a entertaining movie. It's such a rich character study. I think that it has so much to say about the entertainment industry and the way that obsession can make someone's life so much murkier and so much harder than it has to be. It has obviously a lot to say about the television business and how fame can, or the idea of fame can warp a person's perception of reality. I think Robert De Niro gives his career best performance here. I utterly adore The King of Comedy, and I am kicking myself for not checking it out earlier, because it really is like the Scorsese movie to me. Like, After Hours, I may like a little bit more because, like, of the themes it touches upon. It's definitely really silly, but very like a very trippy experience. But like, if you're looking for pure, what does Martin Scorsese do the best? I think you got to go King of Comedy. I think that it embodies his work the best out of any of his other films. All right, we're pushing through the list here. We have Leviticus, which I also talked about. Definitely go check out that review if you have not already. And I'm going to put the... maybe here. I think I'll go here. Like, just if it'll let me. No? Okay, all right. Just below The Furious, but I could see myself going here. Yeah, I think I like it a little more than The Furious, just because I think thematically it's more interesting. Yeah, I liked this movie. Go check out my review just to hear my full thoughts on that one. Then we have Return of the Jedi. Like I said, I watched the entire original trilogy this month, and I like this more than A New Hope, but only a little bit more. I have more nostalgia for this film. I also think it holds up. I don't understand the revisionist history of, oh, Return of the Jedi is actually really bad. It's the worst one. It's worse than Attack of the Clones. No, it's not. This is a great time, and I think it's the perfect ending to this trilogy. I think that the scenes with Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, and the Emperor on the Death Star as the Battle of Endor is going on is some of the best Star Wars stuff we've ever gotten. And I think that more respect needs to be put on this movie's name. I think that it gets a bad rap, and I don't believe it deserves. Alrighty, pushing through here. Alright, we're already to this one. Okay, so this is the last movie I saw. I just saw this last night for this video, or I guess 2 nights ago, because this will be released on Thursday. Yeah, I need to stop breathing into the mic. I apologize for that. I'm still learning how to use this mic, so if the audio is a little crap on this, I sincerely apologize. Anyway, I'm getting off track. Supergirl, I unfortunately have to put in the 2 out of 5 category. I did not like this movie. It grinds my gears the more I think about it, because Supergirl and this iteration of Supergirl is inherently interesting. Like, the second she showed up on screen in the 2025 Superman film, I immediately went, yes, I want a movie just of her. And I was pretty excited for this film for that reason. And the fact that it is a boilerplate superhero film, like, it is a so by the numbers, like, superhero origin story that it hurts, is so disappointing. Because Superman got this treatment of, like, we're going to totally reinvent him, we're going to do the character justice, like, we're going to get the essence of Superman down in this film. And it accomplished that mission in spades with that movie. Here, we don't learn anything about Supergirl. We don't get to know her intricacies. We don't get to know what makes her tick. We don't get to know why, she deserves to have her own character, right? Like, she is just a vessel for a bog standard, completely uninteresting, nothing burger of a superhero movie, and I walked away genuinely pissed off because I feel like she deserves better. Like, why are we reverting back to the mid-2010s? Why are we, like, coddling our superhero fan base? Like, what are we doing? I think Craig Gillespie was the absolute incorrect choice for this kind of movie. The same guy that directed Cruella. Are we serious? That guy. Jason Momoa is in this movie. Like, it hit every single check mark that, like, a superhero movie needs to hit, and did nothing else. It literally was like, okay, we got that out, we got that down, and we don't need to do anything else to make this more interesting. We don't need to add I don't know. I'm struggling to even say anything about this movie because it is so bland. It is so forgettable, and that is so disappointing because you could have done so much more with this character. You could have had so much more fun. You could have done something so much more unique, and the fact that this is such a mediocre film almost dowers my entire optimism for the rest of the DCEU. So hopefully they can pivot from this movie. It's bombing pretty heavily, so I would imagine they will pivot and not ever make a mistake like this again. But it is a shame that Supergirl had to be kind of the sacrificial lamb here. And I was really let down by this film. Definitely one of the more disappointing new releases of the year for me. All right, moving on to The Taking of Deborah Logan. I'm going to put this at 3 out of 5. I liked this. I think it is kind of a forgettable movie. I don't know if it's really cutting under the surface all too much. Like it doesn't necessarily have a singular aspect of it that I find to be like particularly interesting. I think it's just as a well-made found footage movie. I think it uses its concept pretty well. I think that the ending was really gnarly. I loved that they really went for it. Do I think it is anything other than like a pretty decent possession film? And that there are like hundreds of movies that do this worse and hundreds of movies that do this better? Yeah, I do think that. But it's something worth checking out. Like, it's a shorter movie. It has some really gruesome stuff in it, especially if you're more into the horror genre. I definitely recommend this one. So, yeah, I liked it. I liked my time with this film. Again, not necessarily the most noteworthy thing in the world, but I did really like it. I think that it gave me exactly what I wanted from it. So, yeah. All right, almost to the end here. We have Tukey-Buke. I am definitely mispronouncing that wildly, but that's going to go here. Loved this film. This was a part of like the Martin Scorsese. I've not mentioned him a lot. Had a very Scorsese month apparently. Even though I think I watched two Scorsese movies this month. Anyway, this was like a part of his world cinema thing, like restoration and saving certain films. And it was on HBO Max. I think they just added it this month. Yes, they just added it. And it looked really interesting to me, and it definitely delivered. This is such a hypnotic experience. It really is like visual poetry. I think that it creates such a unique and distinct atmosphere, and it really locks you in for its entire runtime. And I don't know, I found it to be a very beautiful experience. I found it to be a very just not listless, but like flow experience. Like I was entering a flow state while watching this film. One of the best looking visual films I have seen in quite some time. Like there are some absolutely gorgeous shots in this film. I think they really use color in an interesting way in this movie. And yeah, it is a very hypnotic experience. The one thing I do have to knock it down for, unfortunately, there are several scenes of real animal abuse and like killing animals, and I do understand that like this is a real thing that happens in the world. Obviously, it's kind of central to the point of this movie, but I think that like showing the real thing was just a touch overboard, and it's not enough. There's not enough of it in this movie to where like I have to dock serious points, but like if those weren't in the movie, this would be the easiest 5 out of 5, and maybe even like my favorite movie of the month, if it weren't for those. So it definitely like bothered me, but not enough to where I can't recommend this movie. So just maybe skip through those parts. But yeah, highly recommend this film. Down to our final two, we have Troy, which Phil and I watched in preparation for the Odyssey. This is a very, I want to put it here. This is a dumb movie. I think that it takes a very lackadaisical to be polite approach to historical accuracy, which is fine. I don't necessarily care about that when it comes to these kinds of movies, but it's like a big dumb action epic that gave me really everything I wanted from it, and I was really impressed by how it was able to have me stay engaged even though it's 3 hours long, right? Like normally when I'm watching that long of a film, it's like this has got to be incredible or you're gonna start to lose me. But here, like this is not an incredible movie. Like this is not this is not supposed to be high art, but I found it to be consistently entertaining throughout, where I would even consider rewatching it. Like Brian Cox is hilarious in this movie. I think Brad Pitt is doing very well in the role of Achilles. I think I forget his name, but the guy that plays the prince who dies in the middle of this movie was excellent. I really loved his performance. And yeah, it's a big, dumb, fun a historical drama. I think that it provides anything you could want in that kind of movie, and honestly, it has barrels upon barrels of entertainment value. So yeah, I was actually shocked with how much I really ended up loving Troy. And our last film, my last movie I'm going to talk about in this video is Wild Things. Ooh, 1.5. And I think that might be being a little generous. And that's not to say that I hated my experience at all while watching this movie. Actually, no. Quite to the contrary. This thing is hilarious. I loved every second of this movie just because of how ridiculous it is. That 1.5, I on Letterboxd, if you go and follow me there, please don't forget to do that. I have it as 1.5 with a heart, and when I do that, it's normally like, okay, I'm giving the rating based on like the actual quality of the movie, but the heart is like, but I enjoyed myself. Like this is still pretty good, and that's one of these movies. Like I love trashy thrillers that just have the most absurd plot twists in them, and this movie has that in spades. It has an all-time good bad performance from Matt Dillon. Like, oh my god, is he atrocious in this film, and it is so entertaining to watch. Kevin Bacon is being a madman in this film. Is it Neve Campbell? Yeah, Neve Campbell that's in this movie. She's chewing up the scenery in the best way possible. Like, this is the pinnacle of like 90s crime thriller cheese, and I enjoyed every minute of it, even if it is like genuinely one of the worst movies I watched all of last month. So yeah, that is my thoughts on 26 movies that I watched in June of 2026. My favorite of the month was definitely Akira Kurosawa's Dreams, but also that could have easily gone to Black Girl or King of Comedy. If you're not going to watch any of these movies, please go watch those three. But go do watch any of these movies and let me know what you thought of them. Let me know what you watched in June, and let me know what you thought of this kind of video. What can I do to improve it? What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? Do you hate the idea? Do you love the idea? I definitely like the idea. I wanted to talk to you guys more about stuff that's not just new releases, and this is kind of like the best way for me to do that. So yeah, other than that, I appreciate you guys watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave me a comment. That helps get more of these videos out more quickly. And go follow my Letterboxd, Jake182. And I will see you with the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching.